Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Generaider deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is one of my favorite decks to play currently, and it's just absolutely amazing because of its field spell, Generaider Boss Stage. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that button there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Again, your name, description, every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Har Generaider Boss of Storms. Now all of your Generaider monsters in your deck actually share a common ability that you can only control one of them, which is a really cool thing about these cards. But this card is amazing because it has the ability once per turn, if your opponent adds the cards from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase, quick effect, make your opponent send a monster from their hand or field to the graveyard, but they get to pick, which is a really cool ability just to deal with one of your opponent's cards. This card is also a walking negate, which is absolutely amazing about this card, and it's just an overall great boss. We then play a single copy of Mardell. Mardell is amazing because when this card is summoned to your side of the field, you can actually add a Generaider card from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability just to instantly get the exact Generaider card that you need. We then play a single copy of Utagard. Utagard is a definite 1-up in the deck. This card can actually banish cards off the field because quick effect, you contribute 2 Generaider monsters and or rock monsters and then target a card on the field and banish it, which is really cool to be able to do. And it's super easy to be able to tribute those 2 cards because you basically just activate it during your opponent's turn by tributing the tokens that the field spell generates for that effect. We then play a single copy of Needhog. Needhog is really good because it blocks special summons, which is amazing about this card, and it also has a really cool ability at quick effect. You tribute a Generaider monster or a worm monster, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster when your opponent would special summon a monster, which is such a cool ability for this card to have. We then play 3 copies of Vala. Vala is insane. This card basically fixed the entire deck from breaking, and it's such a good card in this build because this card has a really cool ability that you can only control one of this card, and you can only activate each of the following effects for once per turn. But if this card is in your hand or grave, you can send one other Generaider card from your hand to the grave to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And if this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Generaider monster from your hand or grave, except a copy of this card, instantly getting you basically 2 level 9s on your side of the field so that you can go in for rank 9 plays, which is such a cool thing because we have a lot of really good rank 9s in the X deck that we can go into. This card is amazing in the deck and a definite 3-of. We then play 3 copies of Lopter. Lopter is one of the best normal summons in the entire deck. This card has a really cool ability that while it's on the field during your opponent's turn, all of your Generaider monsters gain 1,000 attack and defense points during your opponent's turn only. And during the main phase, quick effect, you contribute 1 Generaider monster to special summon a level 9 Generaider monster with a different name from your deck, which is a really awesome effect to instantly get any of your Generaider monsters you want on your side of the field, because you can even tribute tokens for Lopter's effect, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Diviner of the Herald. Diviner of the Herald is amazing in this deck as a 3-up, because this card and Lopter are like the best normal summons in the build, because this card basically turns into Baron de Fleur, which is such a cool ability for this card to have, because when you normal summon this card out to your side of the field, you send your copy of Trias to the graveyard, which we play as a 1-of in the build. You then use the effect of Trias to tribute your copy of Diviner on your side of the field to summon Trias back, and then the effect of Diviner will go off to special summon a level 1 fairy from the deck, which is going to be a copy of Booten, one of my favorite cards ever created. This card is absolutely adorable, but this card is amazing because it is a level 1 tuner fairy monster that you can summon off the ability of Diviner of the Herald. This card is so good in the deck because it then turns into, with these 2 cards, into a copy of Baron de Fleur, giving us a walking negate and one of the most powerful synchro monsters ever created. These are really cool combos for the deck to help you get a level 9 monster on your side of the field as well, because with Trias and your copy of World Legacy Monstrosity, you can get 2 additional level 9s on your side of the field, which is so cool, to either go in for some synchro plays or some XZ plays, which is such a cool effect about your copy of Diviner. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's a definite 3-of in the build. This card is so helpful in this particular deck, just stopping your opponent from touching the deck, and it's such a good card overall. We then play 2 copies of Nibiru. Nibiru in the main as a 2-of is really good. You don't want to play 3, you could play 3, but I don't play 3 in this build because it does brick a little bit with 3, but I find that 2 is the perfect number in the build. You can add a third one if you want to, but I feel like 2 is enough because you're already playing so many high-level monsters in the build that you don't want to draw into too many high-level monsters you can't summon to your side of the field. But this is one of the best cards in this format. It's just dealing with your opponent's field. But this card is amazing, and the token is super easy to out with all the cards we're playing in the extra deck, especially cards like Baron de Fleur that can pop the token on the field, which is really cool. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really important in this deck as a 1-of, because we do want to see our field spell as quickly as possible. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is great in this deck as a 1-of, just to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator as a 2-of in this build is usually enough, because what we're trying to stop is cards like Nibiru, Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, stuff like that we want to stop that for our opponent from using, so we can make sure that our plays go through, especially since we basically play 2 different Lone Fire Blossom in the deck with a copy of Lopter, and we play the copy of kind of like a Lone Fire Blossom with our copy of Diviner to be able to summon out Trias to our side of the field, which is very important to be able to do to instantly get those cards on your side of the field so you can start going in for your plays. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactical Talents. This card is great at looking at your opponent's hand so that you can basically get rid of the exact card that you want out of your opponent's hand to stop all of their plays for their turn. This card is still one of the most powerful cards ever created. Also, being able to draw 2 cards or take control of an opponent's monster is really nice. We usually don't take control of an opponent's monster, but drawing 2 if you haven't activated Prosperity in the same turn, or being able to look at your opponent's hand is the most important effects on this card. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is amazing as a 2-of in this deck. This card is crazy because it helps us get to Triple Tactical Talents, it helps us get to Terraforming, it helps us get to some really awesome trap cards that we're playing in the deck, but this card overall is just amazing in the deck and can instantly get to your field spell, which is super cool, by searching out Terraforming, or even your copy of Boss Fight, which is just super cool. If you're going first and your opponent stops like a copy of Terraforming and you have this in your hand, you can drop this on your side of the field and then set your copy of Boss Fight to your side of the field, which is a really cool thing because then during your opponent's turn you can get to your field spell with Boss Fight, which is such a cool thing about this card. This card is really helpful in the deck, but if you want a more budget option for this card, you can change it out for a copy of Triple Tactical Talents and maybe another copy of Crossout Designator or Nibiru for those options for you guys who want a little bit more budget of an option over this card. We then play the coolest field spell ever created, and that's going to be 3 copies of Generaider Boss Stage. This card is so good and so cool. I absolutely love this card. This card has a really good effect that once per turn, if a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the damage step, you can special summon a Generaider monster from your deck in defense position. So basically, if they draw for turn, you get to special summon a Generaider monster from your deck, which is super cool to be able to do to instantly special summon out any Generaider boss monster that you want to your side of the field, which is such a cool ability. And if you special summon a Generaider monster during your opponent's turn, then you get to special summon as many Generaider tokens to your side of the field that are fairy light level 4, 15 under attack, 15 under defense as possible in attack position, but destroy them during the end phase, even if this card leaves the field, giving you a bunch of tokens on your side of the field so you can pay the cost of your Generaider cards, which is super cool to be able to use, like Horus Negate, Uchigar's Banish, or even Needhog stopping your opponent from special summoning, which is such a cool ability about this card to instantly get you those tokens on your side of the field and give you a boss to your side of the field. The best one to summon out with this card first, though, is your copy of Har, because it's a walking negate and it can rip a monster out of your opponent's field or their hand, which is such a cool ability. But this card is a card you want to see every single duel, and it's the most important card in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is really good as a 3-of in the build because this card is a card you want to see as quickly as possible so that you can basically dig into the deck to get to the exact card you need. Plus, the extract is kind of toolbox, so you don't need everything in the extract. So this card is really good at just helping you dig into the deck for the exact cards that you need. We then play 3 copies of World Legacy Monstrosity. This card with Vala and any Generaider card in your hand is basically a double hand rip, which is absolutely crazy about this card, because this card is like a double E-Telly from the deck. It has a really cool ability that you target a level 9 monster you control and special summon from your deck 2 level 9 monsters with each different original types and attributes from that face-up target, and with different names from each other, but those 2 monsters cannot attack and destroy them during the end phase. But hey, that sounds like a free rank 9 to me, so you can basically activate this card, target Vala, special summon out like a copy of Mardell or some of your other cards to your side of the field, and then basically go in for some plays, which is amazing, making 2 copies of Inner Blafnir, and then ripping 2 cards out of your opponent's hand at random, and then making Utopic Future, and then Draco Future, which is so cool about this card. And it just instantly gets you a really powerful boss monster on your side of the field to go in for more plays later. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with a single copy of Generaider Boss Fight. You can set this card to your side of the field off your copy of Thrust, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. When you activate this card, you have the ability to activate 1 Generaider field spell directly from your deck or graveyard, then your opponent draws a card, which will actually activate the ability of Generaider Boss Stage, so you can special summon out that Generaider monster and then special summon out the tokens to your side of the field, which is just such a good plus about this card. Yes, your opponent does draw a card, but if you have no other way to get to your field spell with Thrust, you have this card that you can set going first, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is really good in this build at stopping your opponent from using monster effects and also locking down columns of entire spell and trap card columns, which is so cool about this card. Plus it's a crossout designator target, which is really nice to be able to stop this card if your opponent's trying to use it against you. And it's just such a powerful card overall right now in this format. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Leviathan Generaider Boss of Shadows. This card basically tags into your copy of Jormungandr, which is absolutely amazing, while also eating 2 cards. This card has a really cool ability that monsters that your opponent control lose 1,000 attack and defense points while this card is on the field, making your opponent's monsters really small. And with Lopter on the field, there's going to be a 2,000 point difference between your monsters and your opponent's monsters during their turn, which is super cool. This card has a really cool ability that quick effect, you can tribute this XZ summon card and then special summon a non-fairy Generaider XZ monster from your extra deck. Then you can attach cards from the field or graveyards to that special summon monster as material up to the number of materials that this card had, which is usually going to be 2 materials that you're going to attach to this card. This card is crazy powerful because it helps you tag into your copy of Jormungandr, and then not only does it tag into Jormungandr, but it can also basically eat 2 of your opponent's cards and attach them to your copy of Jormungandr when it's summoned out to your side of the field, which is a crazy disruption against your opponent, which is just so cool about this card. I love this card as a 2-of in the deck, and ending on this card in like Baron de Fleur usually is game if your opponent cannot just immediately out those 2 cards. We then play 2 copies of Jormungandr. Jormungandr is really cool because this card can get massive because depending on the amount of materials that this card has depends on its attack points, because it goes up by 1,000 attack points times the number of materials. In quick effects, you can detach a material from this card and then both players draw a card and then both players attach a card from their hand or their field to this card, which is a really cool ability instantly to just give it an additional material. And you can activate this card super easy to help you OTK your opponent because it can get really big really quick. We then play 2 copies of Phantom Fortress Enter Blafnir. This card helps us hand rip 2 cards out of our opponent's hand if we open up like Monstrosity, Vala, and any other Generaider monster, which is just super easy to be able to do because it has a really cool ability to detach a material from this card and then activate one of these effects. Banish a card your opponent controls, banish a random card from your opponent's hand, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up, which you're always going to use the ability usually of banish a card from your opponent's hand, because being able to get rid of 2 cards out of your opponent's hand while also establishing a negate is just crazy powerful. We then play a single copy of Mirror Logic Aggregator. This card is just a good 1-of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card, but it's a great option. I usually banish it with Prosperity, but he works really well with our copy of Elder Entity Nist. We then play a single copy of 9 Lives Cat. I feel like 1 copy is really good in this build, and it helps out a lot in this deck, but it's just a really good option. We then play a single copy of number 92, Hard Earth Dragon. Hard Earth Dragon is really good against back row decks because this card just banishes everything off the field that was set, summoned, or special summoned that turn, which is just so cool because it has the ability, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving this card. And during your opponent's end phase, you can detach a material from this card and then banish all cards that your opponent currently controls that were normal or special summoned or were set this turn. So if you're playing against a back row heavy deck and you know it, and you're going first, make this card, put it in defense position, and they're going to set their cards during end phase. You detach a material and you banish their whole back row, which is just really good because usually you're going to win at that point. But this card is also really good because if this card is destroyed while it has XZ material, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, and when you do, it gains 1,000 attack points for every card currently banished, which comes in really handy with Pot of Prosperity. We then play a single copy of Utopic Future. Utopic Future is in here so we can step from this card into Draco Future. And the way you make these cards is you make 2 copies of Enter Blafnir, and then once you do and rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, you make the copy of F-Zero and then Utopic Future, giving you a monster negate, which is super, super cool. I love this card in the deck because once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, detach and return this card, negate the activation, and if that monster is on the field, you gain control of that monster, which is really cool. But this card is great as a 1-of in the build because you can make it so easily. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus because we can make it super easy in this build with all the different XZ monsters that we play. 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is just insane to make off of the Diviner combo of normal summoning Diviner, sending Trias, tributing your copy of Diviner to special summon Trias, and then Diviner goes off, special summons Booten to your side of the field, and then you make this card with your level 9 Trias and your level 1 Booten, which is just super easy to do, and it gives you a walking gate and a pop. We then play a single copy of Elder Intinis. You can send this card to graveyard off your copy of your Diviner, but it also works with your copy of Mirror Logic Aggregator, which is really good. And then finally play a single copy of Donner. I'm playing 1 Donner in this build because it helps you out the Nibiru token just in case you need to. And this card is super easy to make because it just takes 2 monsters with different types, which we're basically playing the entire deck as different types and basically different attributes, which is just super easy to pull off this card. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Generaider before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's one of my favorite decks to currently play because it's just super cool. And don't forget to play the tokens. You're going to need the tokens. The tokens are very important because you're going to need at least 5 tokens, probably 4. You could get away with 4, but 5 is really nice to be able to have in this particular build. 1 for the Nibiru token, and then 4 for you, because you're going to have a Generaider on your side of the field, but you can play any tokens that you want, but I highly suggest having the nice Generaider tokens, because they're just so cool to throw on your side of the field. They do summon in attack position, which is really important to remember. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. This deck is really fun to be able to play. I absolutely love playing Generaider right now because it's just such a cool deck. It has some of the coolest artwork in the entire game, and every time I activate boss stage, I swear my opponent hears boss music, which is just so funny. I love this deck. It's so cool. Like, it's just really cool to be able to just activate boss stage and summon any boss monster you want from your deck, which is just amazing. It just turns into basically the boss rush deck. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.